Welcome to Sex Crimes Defense Podcast with Chance and Jay. Chance Oberstein is a defense attorney who handles sex crimes in California. I'm a media professional. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be legal advice. Chance, we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein's alleged suicide. We're talking about the cameras, and I'm just going to blurt it out. This is the big. I can't imagine he would commit suicide. This is Jeffrey Epstein, man.
Right. This is the same Jeffrey who got the 2008 plea deal.
We're talking about a guy, hundreds of victims.
Well, no, I mean, forget the
Maybe.
victim thing.
Okay.
Forget the victim thing for right now.
Right.
Focus on, on this. One, he's in jail, and at this point, it's the Trump administration. So it's not like anybody's trying to axe his head off, but forget about whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden. Doesn't really matter, because both sides of the aisle is vested in the elite and the powerful, and both sides of the aisle probably have names all over the place. So, he's added advantage. I mean, if you just focus on the 2008 plea deal, that's 13 months with work release. Are you kidding me? Now look, he's now been arrested in 2019. He hasn't lost his money. He has his lawyers. He has the power to negotiate, and nobody wants any names out there. Why in the world would he commit suicide before he's had a chance to exercise every option of release? How is that possible?
It's fascinating how in a police interrogation and detectives and case review, etc., they look at every angle of a crime, why it happened, what's the motive, etc. And nobody's asking that question you're asking. What's the motive? Why would he do it? No one ever talks about that. That's why it is insulting when I see another article that says pedophile that killed himself in prison. Like, that's no. Why are you trying to condition us? He didn't commit suicide.
Well, it's things that we have discussed previously in other episodes. Social media and news tends to be very conclusory, and it shapes our opinions. It really does, because we think somehow that's connected to elements, basic foundations of truth, when in fact, it's really sketchy resources, if at all, and a lot of just subjective narrative and speculation. I mean, let's face it, that's what it is. And so when we take a close look at it, through the episodes that we've developed, we're trying to inculcate our audience into looking at this in an analytical way and posing the right questions. What are the right questions? Because if you ask the right questions and you get answers that lead you to the next batch, where you can kind of reasonably conclude a little bit more accurately and precisely what might have happened, until we really know actually what did. And that's kind of the process through how we discuss things in these podcasts.
You raised a good point with the 13 months in 2008 through the non-prosecution agreement. He's got hundreds. I've laughed a couple times, and I feel bad about that, because it's absurd what he's been given. And I even heard a clip. He's like, I haven't been given anything. I'm paying them ultimate price. Baloney. Hundreds of victims, and he gets 13 months probation, and he doesn't even serve it.
He does work release.
There are photos of him in places he's not supposed to be.
Well, of course. Here's the thing that you got to think about in terms of this whole story of suicide. And that is, one, the public has been offered something that's completely innocuous. I mean, these photos focusing on, are not photos, but videos. This video footage is worthless, and the explanation is sketchy. And, above all, there's no indent. He didn't leave a note. Have we even discovered any narratives written by any guards or any social workers or any psychs at that facility saying that he was in a depressed, suicidal state. The only thing we know is that he was put on suicide watch. And everybody knows that that could be observational, that can be subjective. Okay, could mean a lot of things. Doesn't necessarily mean that the person's suicidal. It may just be that the person's not bothering to take care of themselves. They're a little disheveled, or they seem to not want to eat much, or whatever. You put someone on suicide watch, or you could put somebody on suicide watch, and then you know what? Somehow they end up dead, and you can call it a suicide. But whatever it is, it's a really funky explanation for what's going on, because there's not a whole lot of evidence that supports the fact that he was suicidal in the first place.
I mean, you're right. With the few puzzle pieces we are given, have you seen the picture of his cell? That picture makes no sense at all. I can't tell what we're looking at.
It looks really disheveled. And actually, if you look at it closely, it looks like a place where a struggle took place. I mean, everything's thrown all over the place. If that's, I don't imagine that that's exactly how a person that's been used to the kind of lifestyle he's used to lives. I just don't think so. It just doesn't match. But in order to really know, you'd have to know that information from the people closest to him. Was he methodical? Was he clean? Was he neat? What did the cell look like before? Were there any pictures taken of the cell during his occupation? I mean, where is all the evidence, all the documentation describing his stay in that cell at that time? Zero. We've been offered zero. The only thing that the
Well, that's right.
public gets.
They said the cameras didn't work or something dumb.
Yeah, but that's all the public gets. Me. Where are the folks who were monitoring every single day? Okay, the people who were involved with his life, the people he spoke to, the guards, anybody he interacted with, even people, trustees, anybody who served him food. Where is the narration? Where is all the debriefing? Where are all the reports done? Because when someone allegedly commits suicide, everything's documented. People are interviewed. People are spoken with. Reports are made. Where's all that stuff? Have you seen
I
it?
don't think we're no, and I don't think we're ever really gonna. The playbook on how to distract the people is just incredible. It's incredible that even half of the population, it could be three-quarters, that actually believes he committed suicide.
I mean, it's
Huh?
an open question. And the other thing that's really interesting about all this is, if you don't think he committed suicide, then how did he die? And why would
I can answer
anybody
that one too.
why would anybody want him dead is the big question.
My actual question is, who did they get to do it? Like, if you're gonna do well, he was the moment I heard about it, I'm like, they killed him. And I know why they killed him, because of the client list. And it's funny, here we are in 2025 pretending there may or may not be a client list. If he doesn't have a client list, what does he have?
Well, he's got to have a client list, even if it's in his head, but it has to be used in terms of leverage to secure his freedom. How
Okay,
did he get? And when I go back to the original deal, that's the original deal. Okay, he had a client list, whether it was written down, stored, or not, in his head. Anyway, he knew exactly who he dealt with, and any leverage he would have in order to cut a deal like this would involve that kind of information and the potential damage it would cause upon relief. Or I'm sorry, relief. Relief. What
so
am I saying about
release.
release?
So
Yeah.
okay, so Diddy. Let's go to Diddy.
Did he?
Diddy
Did
had
he?
photos and videos, right? Diddy had video and photos. Isn't this playbook for how you do these things? Let's go back to the 90s when Jeffrey Epstein was making his money. He knew how to put leverage on people for their secrets. So he's not going to go 25 years into business and there's no leverage. I heard that he had a safe containing Polaroids. That sounds like something he would do, right?
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't know how he operated, but I know one thing: he wasn't stupid.
No,
And
he
so, I
wasn't.
mean,
And
he had
that's
to.
another thing. We're pretending he was an idiot because we don't like his sexual deviance. And that's another thing that I think people commonly do. They treat sexual deviants like they're fools, and it's far from it.
Yeah, no, he knew how to operate. So, if he's an operator and he's engaging in risky behavior like that, then he is thinking about the future, and he is considering the fact that at some point he could get caught up. I mean, absolutely. From 2008, he would know it, and from 2008 till 2019, if he didn't have any leverage in case he did get caught up, then you can say he was really stupid.
And there's the motive to kill him is, man, listen, we got him in custody. It's 2019. This guy's been running around for 25 years. God knows what he's got. We got to kill him now. This is our only chance to kill him in a way that we can fool the public, because we'll just tell them the shit they'll believe.
Well,
And 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 then they hire a couple dummies. It's, who did they hire to kill him?
well, then we get into kind of like crass speculation, kind of.
Yes.
But I mean,
Well,
but
what are
if
we
you
left with?
well, if you think about it, though, how hard would that be? If
It'd
there's a
be
court,
so easy.
if yeah, in prison it would, because if there's a coordinated effort, put the man on suicide watch. Okay, leave the cell open, let a trustee drift down there, trade him for something. Everybody in prison is desperate for something, including release. But trade him for something, have the thing done, call it a suicide. I mean, that's a possibility. Of course, anything's possible. But the thing is it's this explanation that's been offered is it falls so short of what it should, could, and can be. We just it leads us to start speculating because it's just so lacking.
Not to mention the vigilantes in prison justice. I bet you could find two guys to do it for free.
Yeah, you probably could, but again, the possibilities are infinite. But someone had to put him on suicide watch. So that tells me that there was a coordinated effort, because you'd have to have the authorities do that inside the prison. So someone had to put him on suicide watch, but we don't know why he was put on suicide watch because we have no explanation.
This is the most speculation we've probably done in a show so far, but that's the problem with the Epstein case is, yes, we have a lot of information about what he did, but we have almost no information about what happened at the end.
Well, yeah, and that's probably why everybody wants to get into the files. They want to see if any of this was included in the files. It wouldn't necessarily be in the grand jury testimony or anything offered at that end, because that's the mandatory minimum for getting over the bar. Of this stuff, if anywhere, would be contained in the files.
When you say the files, what files are we talking about?
Well, there should be a huge amount of information collected by the Department of Justice regarding everything we just talked about, all the facts and circumstances surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and the suicide, and everything else related to him that didn't go into any of the grand jury testimony or preparation for it. So there must be, because when you're talking about, jury testimony and you're talking about that end, you've got very limited information being used. You don't need to use much. You have people testifying. That's different. What I'm talking about is all the information gathered about him, including the facts and circumstances surrounding the suicide. We don't have that. That's in the files. There's no reason why that can't be disclosed.
We're going to continue this conversation and get into some of his connections, which will lead us to Ghislaine Maxwell. Join us for part 3 of Jeffrey Epstein on Sex Crimes Defense Podcast with Chance and Jay.